Today's GSD Summer Tour with none other than Miss Tori Kruse. Tori is a motivational speaker, former Miss Missouri USA in 2018. Tori helps women develop confidence in themselves to achieve their greatest potential. Tori, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing awesome. How are you? It's great to be here.
Oh man, I'm stoked. I can't wait to see you next week in Scottsdale. We're talking off air about Scottsdale boot camp next week, and I asked Tori just a minute ago. I said, "So how long?" Because she's speaking to in a session and a Q&A, and I'm like, "Well, how often are you going to be there?" And your response was what?
I was like, the whole time, I was like, why would I miss a second of this? You guys, this lineup is insane. I mean, yes, I'm on the lineup, so it's kind of weird to say the lineup's insane, but it's insane. Like, these are some top level speakers. Sharon Lecter, Anthony Trucks, Gregory, like, amazing. Ken Joslin,
Yeah,
right?
come on,
Like,
girl.
you have such an incredible lineup of speakers. And so, yeah, I'm like, why wouldn't I go and just learn and grow? And, circle of influence is huge.
Yeah, dude. It's Sharon and I just talked about that just a little bit ago in our interview. Hey, real quick, before we get started, tell everybody a little bit about what you've got going on, and you're in Scottsdale. Obviously, you're there. Tell everybody about what you're doing and what's going on in the life and season of Tori Kruse.
Oh man, what isn't going on, right? The world's back. It's opened up. Events are back. And man, I'm so excited to start speaking at live conferences again. I actually just gave for the first time a Christian message. I gave the sermon over Mother's Day. So I kind of dove into the Christian speaking realm a little bit recently, and then have a couple of conferences in addition to the Scottsdale boot camp here coming up that I'm super excited about. Launching new coaching programs all the time. I mean, like I said, what isn't going on right now? It's fun. It's always moving.
Tell everybody, obviously you were Miss Missouri in 2018. Tell everybody a little bit about your pageantry background. You've got some phenomenal stories. We've interviewed and been friends now for about a year. So I know your story pretty good, but I'd love for you to take just a minute and talk to our audience about your story. Like who's Tori Kruse? What has helped you get to where you are and shaped who you are and the woman you are today?
Oh man, I tell you what, I've always been competitive, Ken. I mean, every little bit of me is competitive. I grew up playing basketball and sports, and then
Hey, all I can tell you is you're lucky there's no basketball court at this house. Cause
hey, you never know. I bet we can find one next weekend and shoot some threes. Play a little game of horse, right?
yes.
But yeah, I grew up playing sports with a brother, and he never let me win in anything at all. And so then after high school, my basketball years were over. I ended up going to college and was like, man, I need to do something competitive. And so I found this ad on Facebook that said compete for Miss USA. And, I was a tomboy growing up. So I'd never thought in the world that I could go walk, in a bikini and 6-inch heels and on national television. It didn't even cross my mind. And then, one thing led to another. I ended up competing for Miss Iowa Teen USA and then Miss Iowa USA. And fast forward, I ended up competing for 6 years or 6 times, 8 years training total before I actually won the title of Miss Missouri USA when I moved to St. Louis for my career path. So heard a lot of no's there, Ken. I mean, I heard more no's in that journey than I did yeses. And I think it's something that I've always carried on now. Like once I learned that, and I wasn't doing it like in sports, I was hearing no's all the time too. I just didn't really realize it until I was in pageantry. And it was like, whoa, that lesson right there changed my life and the trajectory of my business and my success in general.
Tell me what you learned? Because I've interviewed a lot of amazing people in the last year, and it's been a long time since you and I've had a podcast conversation. But you're probably there's probably been 3 statements or quotes out of the last year, and I mean I've interviewed some pretty good people, and yours is at the top, and that was one of your coaches told you, every no gets you closer to your yes. Blew me away when I heard it, and I share that everywhere I go, and I always give you credit for it. Talk about that. Talk about that moment that sank in and what it did for you moving forward in your life.
It was so much uncertainty, right? Like whenever you hear no, it hurts a little bit, right? And you fail. Like I got first runner up is really where it hit me hard was when I was competing. And then I finally got so close. I tasted winning. And then I was like, man, how do I go one step further the next year and actually win Miss Missouri USA instead of placing first runner up? And in that moment, I thought of every single no is one step closer to my yes. And what I learned was you have to step outside of your comfort zone. all the time. Like if you want to be confident, it's no fancy mindset techniques for me. What it is stepping outside of your comfort zone, creating a plan, and practicing your tail off. And what I did, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to ask you, you talked about stepping outside yourself. And what did you have to do in order to build inside of you the confidence to be okay for somebody to tell you no and you to hear that many no's?
I had to cry it out a few times, to be honest with you. You know, sometimes it's people try to be so tough on the outside, and it's like, hey, give yourself some grace. Like you just worked your butt off to go achieve this massive goal and this massive dream that you set out for yourself. And you have to give yourself time to breathe and just give yourself some grace and realize that, you know, I have a strong faith in God and whoever everybody's higher power is. It's like, find that faith and know who you are and get yourself centered again and who you are. And every single time I failed, I was like, you know what? I cried it out a little bit less every single time, right? And I gave myself some grace, but I was like, you know what? I did everything I possibly could. And it was just like that heart-to-heart moment with myself and with the Lord. And it was like, hey, just because I failed doesn't mean that I'm not worthy of someday winning. Just get back up on your feet. And it just kept repetition of just failing and then becoming just more okay with it and knowing that it was just a learning lesson. It wasn't a failure or losing, but it was just a learning lesson to what I could do better for the next year. And it was fun to come back stronger every year. It sucked to lose again, but it was worth it once I finally got the crown and sash and then went to Miss USA.
And how many years did you compete before you won Miss Missouri on that level?
I trained for 8 years and I took a couple of years off. So I actually competed 6 times.
So what would you say to somebody out there who's been trying to succeed in this specific, you know, sport, business, genre, pageantry, whatever it is? What would you say to somebody who's had repeated moments where they've been told no?
Just don't give up. If it's in your heart, if you have this goal and this dream in your heart, it's there for a reason. And you have the capability to do it. And it's just figure out a plan. You have to get extremely clear. I follow this, and is pretty similar to yours actually, Ken, is clarity, confidence, consistency. And that 3-part framework, it's just, you have to get clear on exactly where you're at right now. Just be super honest with yourself. It only hurts yourself if you're not being honest about your current reality. And then figure out where you want to go. And then start creating that plan to get there. You just don't show up at success without a plan.
Right.
And then be consistent in your habits. You have to be consistent in your habits.
It's, dude, I talk a lot about my concept, incremental, not monumental. Small daily disciplined decisions over time always equal monumental results. Success cannot escape you if you do the right things every single day. It's funny. You said just a minute ago about confidence. What are some of the things that you teach your clients? I know you work with women, you work with pageantry girls in the pageantry industry or field. You work with business owners. What's one of the things you do to help them build confidence?
I help them create a plan. And before actually creating a plan, that I help them create their purpose. Because the biggest thing is, especially if you're talking about the pageantry world or really anything, right? Like if you have this dream, you can sometimes just pour your whole life into it. And with pageantry, it's like, hey, if you go after this one dream, you forget like, hey, no, this is just a stepping stone to where you're going. And so I try to awaken them first and just be like, hey, what's your purpose? Like what sets your heart on fire? And then do that thing. And then find a mentor who's already been there and hire them to help you skip all those 10 steps. And so it's just, you know, it's building blocks, but if you just, I help them create their purpose, create their plan, and then that gives you the confidence to start practicing and then perform at your highest level.
I love that. You said find a mentor and pay them to help skip steps. The first mastermind I went to with grants, 10 grand for 2 days. You know, so you're in the room with Grant for probably, we're talking about Grant Cardone. You're in the room with Grant. There was 30 other people there with me back in June. I paid $10,000, but I back up just a little bit. About 3 weeks before that, my buddy who owns some auto repair stores in Detroit area calls me. And this is what he says. He goes, "Did you hear Grant's doing a mastermind?" I said, "No." He goes, "It's $10,000 for 2 days." This is the next statement is exactly what you just said. He goes, think of how many years we can shave off the development of our business by being around him for 2 days. So when you talk about that, Tori, talk about the power of mentors and being in rooms with people. I write it in my journal every day. Get in rooms with people who think bigger than you do. Talk about the power of having mentors and being around people whose mindset and accomplishments are so far ahead of yours.
There's a lot to be said about that, but there's one thing that I've learned over just my personal development journey is be the smallest person in the room. It's uncomfortable for high achievers, especially. It's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable, but it's great, right? When you have that smallest person in the room mindset, the amount of growth that you can gain from that is immeasurable. And that's what the Scottsdale boot camp is coming up here, next week, is like, get in these rooms of people bigger than you, and I am not on the level, right, of Anthony Trucks and Sharon Lecter. They have way more experience than I do. Yes, I'm going to show up and teach and give value, but their career path is at a different level, right? And it's just, that's the power of being in those rooms and being on those stages, and just be your circle of influence is everything. And I love getting uncomfortable, because then you become comfortable, and then you can see your growth throughout the years. It's really fun to look back and be like, man, when I surrounded myself with this person, my growth went from here to here. And one thing I got to say with mentors is, you don't have to have the same one for 10 years or even a few years. It was in different seasons of my life, I continually level up my mentors. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I ended up winning as well, was that every single year I became super clear on where I was at after each competition. And then I said, all right, who is on my team that can help me get to this goal? And every single year I would reanalyze who my team was. And by the time I won, I had Miss Universe coaches, Miss USA coaches, Tony Robbins coaches. I mean, it was the top of the top, because that was my goal. And I hired a mentor who had already been what I wanted to achieve.
I love that. We've got 4 tickets left next week for Scottsdale. You mentioned some of the names: Greg Reed, Sharon Lecter. Sharon's sold 30 million books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad series, Napoleon Hill Foundation. Her and Greg have done several books that have been bestsellers. Steve Trang. Steve's one of the top real estate brokers in the state of Arizona. I think one out of every 100 one out of every however many transactions, 100 goes through his brokerage. Carlos Reyes, his partner Sal. I was just at their conference in Scottsdale 3 or 4 weeks ago. They had around 800 people there at their conference. Multiple businesses in 7 and 8 figures. Jeff Finster, CEO of Everbowl, top 40 under 40, Forbes Inc. and Entrepreneur Magazine. I mean, these guys are, literally these are killers to be able to get in a room with 55 or 60 people. That's why I mentioned earlier when I said, hey, how long off air? I was like, how long are you going to hang out? You're like, I'm going to be there the whole time. Like, I want to learn. You understand. How many coaches did you go through in your pursuit of becoming Miss Missouri?
In the past 10 years, I've had over 20 coaches and mentors.
And how much money have you spent on that?
Oh my gosh. I haven't calculated all that, but let me tell you, it is like well over probably 30 grand. Yeah. I mean, I'm constantly, and the more you level up, obviously the ticket's a little bit higher too, but it's worth it. It's worth it. And then you develop, the big thing is just developing the relationship with those people. Right. And, we would never even be sitting here right on Zoom talking right now. And I would never be speaking at your conference if it wasn't for me going to the Grant Cardone conference, connecting with Sherry Ennis, and then we connected. Like, it's interesting when you look back of how you made these relationships with people. And it's only because I went to that 10X conference by myself in Vegas for 1 week and ended up staying for the 10X ladies conference. Just because I wanted to be surrounded by high level leaders. And that's exactly why we're here today. So you never know in the process when you're developing relationships with people, you never know where it's going to lead. But if you just keep that relationship building at the forefront, you can't lose.
What would you say to somebody who's listening to our conversation today and may have listened to Sharon and I's conversation earlier today, who's on the fence about spending $4,000 or $5,000 to come to an event like this? What would you say to them?
get your butt there. Like that's all. Seriously, it's one of those decisions where you can be fearful, but there is nothing that you would lose from an opportunity like this. Like seriously, nothing. The value that is here far exceeds any conference that, we were talking about Grant's conference, the 10X. This lineup is pretty darn equivalent to that. I mean, the lineup that you've created is insane. And, it's one of those, get in rooms with, like I said, be the smallest person in the room. Get in there, be uncomfortable, just see what happens. Just give it a shot. Step outside of your comfort zone one time and just.
And I tell people all the time too, it's not just communicators. It's not just you. It's not just Sharon. It's not just, Jeff or Carlos or two things. Number one, I am super careful who I bring in the room. I want them to have the same DNA and heart that I have to be significant and add value to people and help them. But the biggest thing is you're going to be around some other entrepreneurs that are doing 20 million a year, 30 million a year. I've got one of our GSD guys doing 100 million a year in their business. You're going to be around some people that you're going to be able to build relationships with, business owners. They're going to be there learning just like you are, that you're going to be able to build relationships with them as well as the people that we've got coming in to communicate. So it's a huge, huge, huge opportunity. Tori, what have you got going on right now? How can people follow you? What have you got going on right now? How can people connect with you?
Absolutely. So Instagram is probably the best method. Miss Tori Kruse, MissToriKruse, and shoot me a DM. If you need a little boost. I've been known to be people's hype girl. I have a call right after this actually with the girl competing in a pageant this weekend, at a state pageant. She's like, can I just have a quick phone call with you? Just need a little hype before my weekend. I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. Jump on a call. I want to help out any possible way I can. So follow me on social, reach out. Love to say hi to you guys.
Guys, we're going to have a blast next week. Develop confidence. You talked about in helping women develop confidence so they can achieve their greatest potential. Give us a success story or two of somebody that you've helped in the last year to 2 years and where they are now through opening their lives up with you for you to be able to coach them.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is one of my friends, Alexa. She gave me a call. I actually was coaching her sister through one of my programs, and she developed confidence in herself and her body and everything and through health. And then she told her sister about me, and she's like, I just want to have a phone call with her. Jumped on the phone with Alexa, and she's actually she lives in Nashville. She's a film producer. She creates music videos for A-listers in the country music world. And she actually went on tour with this very well-known, I won't say their name, but a very well-known couple in the country music world. And she said she's mid-20s, and she's like, hey, Tori, I really want to go back on tour with, especially the female. They're actually not together anymore, the couple, but she's like, especially the female, I really want to go back on tour with her. I'm like, well, how's your relationship with her? She's like, she loved my work last year. It was all great. And I said, Alexa, do you have her cell phone number? She was like, yeah. She's scared, right? She was scared. And sometimes you just need somebody to believe in us a little bit, to step outside of our comfort zone. And I said, you know what? Open up your phone right now. Put me on speaker. I said, we're going to shoot her a text, this country music artist. And I said, shoot her a text right now. I drafted it up with her. She sent it off. She called me 2 days later. She said, hey, I'm actually shooting her next music video for her next single that just came out. And she said, Tori, I got to tell you, nobody has believed in me that I can pursue my dreams. She said, I want to be the top, win an award at the CMAs for music video, best music video. And she said, but my family, my friends, nobody believes me. They just laugh because it's such a big dream. And I said, I believe in you, Alexa. Come on, girl. And then 2 days later, she said she went on a shoot with this country artist, and she asked her to go on tour with her. And it was one of those moments where I could almost tear up just saying it, because it was just like, we all need somebody to believe in us. Mm-hmm. And that's all it takes sometimes. It chokes me up because I get so passionate about that, where, my coaches believed in me for so long when I was failing, and here Alexa was failing. And she was like getting her in her own head because nobody believed in her in her circle. And so her calling me and telling me I'm going back on tour with her this summer, it's just, my heart's just bursting. And it was like, that's what life is all about. It's like, if I can just help one person develop that confidence in themselves to go after their biggest dream that sets their heart on fire, man, I'm doing God's work.
I say this all the time. I talk about being an encourager. Passionate leaders are intentionally encouraging people and adding value. The word encouragement literally means, I shared this with Sharon just a while ago, it literally means to add courage to. And when you encourage it, what you said to her was, Alexa, I want you to borrow my belief in you.
Yes.
I want you to borrow the belief I have in you, and it's going to fuel you and get you to a point to where you can believe in yourself. Guys, listen, she's got me teared up over here.
And I'm like, whew, I know this is going to be an emotional Zoom or an emotional podcast here.
You know, when you're passionate about helping people, and I asked Sharon earlier, I asked her a question for those of you guys that may not know, talking about Sharon Lecter. I interviewed her earlier today. I asked her a question. I said, what's it like? Because I spent an hour and a half, 2 hours at her kitchen table between Christmas and New Year's this year, just laying out everything I wanted to do at Grow Stack Drive for the year. And she's just like, patting me on the hand. You can do this. You've got this. You're super gifted. She would ask questions. And I said, what is it like to be in your season of life and look around the world at men and women that have your thumbprint that are making such an impact in other people's lives? And dude, she just lit up just like you did, because when you think about, and I talk a lot about significance versus success. When you think about the significance piece, and what you did was you were significant in her life, and now she's experiencing some success in a way that she would not have had you not been significant in her life. And it goes back to the Zig Ziglar quote that's one of my favorite. If I help enough people get what they want, eventually I'm going to get what I want. So I ask you the same question I asked Sharon. How does it feel at the end of the day when you lay your head down on the pillow and you have experiences like you had with Alexa?
I mean, it still chokes me up, right? It's fulfilling. And so and I want to make note though, it's not every day, right? It's not
Right.
every day that I have that phone call. And so, but it's those phone calls that get you through the dark times, the trying times, the times where you're doubting yourself, the times where you have fear and you don't believe, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I following my heart and my mission and my purpose in life? And, but those are the calls that get you through, and you're like, man, it's so fulfilling. That's what we're here to do.
Well, girl, I love you. I love your heart. I love your passion to help people. I love your passion for Jesus, what he's doing in your heart. Man, I love following you. I can't wait to connect next week, meet some of your family. We're going to have a phenomenal time. Guys, listen, if you don't have a ticket, growstackdrive.com/Scottsdale. Don't let finances be a reason you don't make it. We've got some scholarship funds available. A couple businessmen in our GSD community have been super generous and said, hey, listen, we want to help people get there, because they understand it's made a huge difference in their businesses and in their life. This is an opportunity for you to be in the room with, again, I write in my journal every day, get in rooms with people who think bigger than you do. It's an unbelievable opportunity for you to actually get in rooms with people. Sharon Lecter sold more books than any other female writer on the subject of finances in the history of the world. I mean, Greg Reed, Tori Kruse, Miss Missouri from 2018, who heard no so many times she understood that it just gets her closer to her yes, in an unbelievable lineup. But I've got a couple of guys coming in that aren't even on this list that nobody even knows are coming in. It's just going to be a phenomenal weekend. So Tori, Miss Tori Kruse on Instagram. Website, what's another place for them to catch you?
Just go to ToriKruse.com.
Tori Kruse, Kruse,
yes.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Kruse. Check out speaking, coaching, whatever it is. I want to help you guys. I have actually a new academy called What's Next Academy. And I help people discover what's next in their life and their fulfilled purpose. So really excited to help women through that, and actually men too. Men are welcome too, but I'll just say as a whole, it's primarily women. So just know you might be the few if you're a man.
Yeah. And guys, I would encourage you guys. You heard her tell her story just a minute ago and how emotional she got. She's invested in what she does. It really is. She really is a person who leans into significance and leans into fulfillment and leans into letting people borrow that belief, helping them develop a plan. I love you said this a while ago. I said, how do you help them develop confidence? You said, I help them create a plan. And when you have a plan, you have a roadmap, you have a something you can look at every single day and know, if I take this step, I am going to not only be successful, but I'm going to build my confidence in who I am and live my best life.
Yes, you got it, Ken. And hey, everybody listening right now, if you have not gotten a ticket to Grow Stack Drive, just go do it. Do it right now after you're hyped up after watching a podcast. I know you interviewed the other speakers as well, Ken, and go watch all those. And if you're doubting joining come to the conference live, you guys, one of the biggest things about these live boot camps is it picks up your momentum, right? And your momentum is going to be through the roof after that. And you will see your life and you'll see your business scale from this because of the confidence and the momentum that you're going to gain from this conference. So Ken, I just want to say thank you so much for putting this together. And I couldn't be more excited for next weekend. I can't wait to light up the stage on Sunday. It's going to be a blast.
Oh, we're going to have so much fun.
I'm just really excited to be in a room with other, high level leaders.
Hey, and don't miss that Hawaiian luau pool party on Saturday. We're doing a whole hog. We've got roasted chickens, a bar, a DJ, a red carpet.
Hey, red carpet. We're speaking this into
existence. Yes, we are.
I think we need to do it.
I already sent Emily. She goes, okay, should I call her? And I'm like, yes. So Emily's going to be reaching out to you to have a conversation about that. Guys, listen, this has been our Grow Stack Drive podcast. Grow Stack Drive, where we help business professionals build confidence, gain clarity, and create community. And my good friend, Tori Kruse. And dude, if you're a guy out there and you're single, and you've got your stuff together, send me an application and I'll let you know if you're qualified to have a conversation with Tori.
Yeah, that's true.
That's exactly right. You better believe it. You better believe it is.
Vlog. I love it.
Yes, girl. I love you. I love your passion for people. Love your passion for people, for life. I love hearing stories and watching you, even though you're on the other side of the country, live life, have a blast, live it to the fullest, and be intentional in adding value to people and help people achieve more than they ever could on their own.
Thank you, Ken. Excited to be along this journey with you. And I just love impacting the world together. So thanks for having me.
Have a blast. Can't wait. I'll see you next week. Guys, thanks again for our Grow Stack Drive podcast. We'll be back on Monday, noon